In this Lords of the Fallen video, I'm going to be showing you my Bullyking strength build. If you're watching the video I used in the showcase, you probably have a good idea why I call it the Bullyking, because this build bullies most bosses in the game, and in a lot of cases, 3 to 4 shotting some of the toughest of bosses no problem. We use the Anvil Hammer, which has the highest base physical damage in the entire game, to smash the life out of our opponents. Because we have the Umbral Eye of Loash, while charging our heavy attack, we are unable to be staggered out of the charge, and any damage during it will only count towards wither damage taken. Meaning, if we land the charged attack, we will fully heal all the damage taken during the charge. In turn, as long as we land that attack, we take basically no damage, and since we can hit upwards of 3,000 damage or more on our attacks depending on the enemy, the trade is well worth it. Let me show you how to make this amazing build. Alright, when it comes to character selection, you definitely want to go the werewolf. He starts off with the bloody hatchet, and his strength is really high, pretty decent base endurance. His health could use a little bit of work, and when it comes to the agility, you're only going to need, I believe, 2 or 3 more points, and you'll have pretty much everything you need for the build, and his armor is pretty decent. So starting off, if I had to pick a character, I would go with the werewolf 100%. Continuing on to the gear, we have the Anvil Hammer, and you can find this at the Vestige of Dieter. You'll probably see it on screen right now, me running to the location. And this is a pretty strong hammer. The main thing about the hammer is it has the highest physical damage of any weapon in the entire game. The only negative is it doesn't have the best strength scaling, which is a little bit unfortunate, but once you have this hammer, it does so much damage that it kind of makes up for it. The only way I would see a hammer being better than this hammer is when you get to ridiculous amount of strength to the point where it just outscales it, but that's going to be quite a bit down the line. When it comes to like a normal playthrough, this hammer is by far the most damage that I've seen thus far. For our runes, we have the Yaxon, which will give us increased physical damage. We have the Hex, which you can get from the blacksmith here. This will increase your strength attribute scaling but reduce your agility scaling. And then we have the Gravix, and this is going to again increase your physical damage while wielding this with 2 hands, and this is going to be the main portion of the build. You're always going to have 2 hands because it actually synergizes with a lot of other pieces of the gear, but this is going to be the combination that I found to do the best damage. I tested quite a few, and this was the best combo for this. Moving on, we have a boar head shield plus 5. Now this item and one other item actually comes together that's part of this build. But keep in mind, this item only comes after you get to Bram's Castle, so I'm going to show you alternative options that you absolutely should use leading up into it. And the first one is going to be the Black Ranger Shield, the Black Feather Ranger Shield. This one you can get from the blacksmith, I think, immediately or something. And I believe the way the runes scale, it is strength, agility, strength. And in this, we'll sock it in and see what it has in it. It has a Hex rune, which will massively increase your strength attributes but reduce your agility slightly. And then we have an Avix as well, and this will increase your strength attributes slightly. If you can get the one that increases your strength attributes greatly, I'll have it up on screen. That would be ideal, but I was farming it for a very long time without the item discovery stuff, and I did it for like 30 minutes and I didn't get one to drop. It drops from the bell head guys that like smack their own head. So there's only a few locations where they can spawn, and honestly it's a pain to get. I won't be able to show the damage in the video, but without it I already hit like 2,400 on a normal hit. With it, it's going to do significantly more damage. Alternatively, if you want a pure strength shield, the Lucent Sword Shield is another great option. You can get this facing off against the judge. It's going to be next to a pair of sentinels on the left side that you go up to the actual area where the seat is. So that is another great option for you. Ultimately, you're going to be looking for the lightest shield possible. Because I have this shield from completing Bram's Castle, this is the lightest strength shield that you're going to have, and it actually comes paired with the rings we're about to cover in a second. Next, we're going to cover the Umbral Eye, because typically I put this at the end of the video, but this is actually very core and you cannot play this build without this eye. It is mandatory. This is called the Umbral Eye of Loash, and this is exactly where you find the hammer. It's in the same exact location, the Vestige of the Dieter. Now I'll show you on screen where it will be at. But what this does is whenever you're charging your heavy attack, you will basically get what I would call like a parry frame, essentially is what it is, where anything that hits you during that duration will be counted as wither damage. Now the thing with the attack is whenever you attack back, because we do so much high damage, we'll actually get the wither damage back because we hit so hard, right? And while you're charging this, you actually can't have your posture broken. So what this means is you can actually trade with enemies. And when I say trade, it's actually a very unfair trade because you're not trading with them, you're just beating the hell out of them because you just straight up win the attack. It's very important that you get this before you start doing the build, but you get this relatively early. Again, this is at the vestige of the Diters. So once you get the Pilgrim key and go up, you'll be able to pretty much get this fairly easy. For our Throwables, these are fairly important, not necessarily the most important, but pretty okay. We have the Enhanced Banner Javelin of Protection. This is found at the Tower of Penance. This is the floor right before you go to the bottom floor. It's literally the floor above it. I'm not going to show it on screen because I don't need to. It's literally the floor right above the very last floor. And you just pick it up next to the switch. I mean, you have to see it when you do this area. So now what this banner does is whenever you throw it down, it will give you health. And it will actually do an AoE attack, I believe, if it hits the enemy. I'm not exactly sure. But it will hit an enemy and deal damage. But the reason for this is we actually want to stay alive as long as possible, because while we are trading for a long time, you know, sometimes we do like get hit outside of the little blue glow, and we want to get a little bit of extra out of it. Now you already have a mountain of like ammo anyway, so you may as well use it. So that's why we use that. And then for our other, we have an enhanced lump hammer. This thing does a ton of damage. I think I've hit in 1300 whenever I throw something at his head. So really good. It's really synergistic to the build since it scales off of strength, and you may as well have it again because you have so much extra ammo. You may as well use it. Moving on to the armors, we have the Sovereign Protector helmet, the Corrupted Cleric's armor because it has decent fire resistance, and then we got the Judge Cleric stuff. I actually just like the way it looked, but ideally you want to make sure you get something with heavy armor. That is very important. Remember, you're going to be standing your ground attacking, and reducing the most physical damage as possible is going to be ideal. So get the heaviest you can, but also that's the big reason why we have so much health. You can't necessarily die from the wither damage, but if it completely finishes your health, then you can die. But since you're going to be charging and then attacking, you're going to get the health back. So that's why we're going super heavy, and that's why we have so much health. We want to be able to not die while we're doing the attack. All right, moving on. The accessories in this build is very, very annoying to get. Specifically the 2 rings, the necklaces, whatever. The 2 rings are very hard to get if you've already played the game and messed up some things. So just keep in mind, I'm going to give you some options, but let's talk about the accessories first off. So the Warrior Claw is going to be found in the bell room. When you go down the elevator where you free the blacksmith, there's a little door in the back. I'll show it on screen. There'll be a lot of very tough enemies here, so you may not be able to get this the moment you can actually get to that area, but it'll be sitting right there. You can get this super early, and it's a really nice item. It's going to increase your physical damage and your physical defense, and since we're trading, we want phys defense anyway, so it's actually really, really good. And you can easily get this no matter what playthrough you do. So moving on to this ring, and this ring, do not make me pronounce it. I do not know how to say it. And this ring is a pain in the ass to get. And I want to be very clear, you cannot use this ring if you cleanse any beacons. Any beacons that's been touched, if you cleansed it, this ring is gone. With that said, no matter how far you are into the game, as long as you didn't go into Brammis Castle, you should be able to get this ring, no problem. To add to that though, every bit of the footage that you've seen so far in this video has been without this ring and without the next ring I'm going to show you as well. So even though you are not going to be as strong as my current character, you'll still be damn strong. So just keep that in mind, and I'll explain to you how this works because this one's quite a doozy. It's actually not too bad. Damarose is a NPC, Damarose the Mark. You'll encounter her right after you go to the Sanctuary Vestige, and this is where you face off against the Scourge Sister with the mace and the thing like that. She'll be standing there. All you have to do is talk to her. Again, she'll probably be there in your game if you're like looking to actually get this ring. She'll be there there. And then on your way down to face off against the one person in the bell room, the bow lady, she'll be there too. Talk to her there. From there, you'll go to the Fitzroy Gorge, She'll be on the cliffside leading into like the little cave, and there's like a little cave run. If she's not there, just go to the Shrine of a Deer and she'll be there. Once you get to the Shrine of a Deer, she's going to ask you to go get a item. I know this sounds like a pain in the ass. She's going to ask you to go get an item from the underground area. And this, I'll show you on screen exactly where the item is. But you'll have to go all the way down there and bring her that item. After you bring her this item, you will basically go back to her and she'll ask you to bring her some flesh from the enemies you face off against. The enemies you need to kill is the Infernal Enchantress, the Spurge Progeny, as well as the Light Reaper. You bring that to her and her shop will become available. You'll be able to get this ring, and then you'll be able to get there's another one that makes it so whenever you dual wield, I have so many rings. Whenever you dual wield, you'll be able to get additional damage. She'll actually give you that ring too, so it's very important to get this vendor because it's really good for multiple builds. That was a mouthful, but let's move on to the next ring, and this is the Melitor ring. This one will increase your physical damage. From what I can tell, it's a multiplier of 5% of all phys damage, and this one is quite annoying as well. It requires you to do a quest line, and this is Durston's quest line. This one is very easily missable, but it's actually a very simple quest to complete. So that's the trade-off. So when you go to the Fitzroy Gorge, and there is a little path to the right that leads down a cave, he'll be standing there. I'll show it on screen. You talk to him there. After you meet him there, he'll appear at Lydia the Numb Witch location, and he's gonna ask you, I believe, for an unripe berry or something like that. So make sure you have an unripe berry in your inventory. But you have to go in this order or he won't actually be able to give you this item. And if you go to the Fife of Chill Curse, you won't be able to do this. He'll be at Fife of Chill Curse, but the quest will fail. You'll go from basically Fitzroy Gorge to Lydia the Numb Witch location, which is Lower Calrath, to the Fife of Chill Curse. When you go to the Fife of Chill Curse, you'll just talk to him, like light the fire, talk to him. And then whenever you go to Bramis Castle, later on, I'll show it on screen, but he'll just drop this item and the shield that I use. It doesn't require anything outside of just doing those 3 locations, but if you like go to Fife of Chill Curse before talking to him at the Lydia the Numb Witch, you lose the whole ring. This one's really long-winded. I'm sorry this one is so long-winded, but these 2 rings are really hard to get for some reason. That is pretty much how you get access to these 2 rings. As you probably can tell, they're a pain in the ass to get. So I'm gonna give you some options that's otherwise decent. You can use the Mine Owner ring. This one's gonna give you stamina, which is actually fairly important to the build if you don't want to invest as much into endurance like I have. Alternatively, there's a ring that gives you just raw strength. I have it on the screen. I think there's another ring that gives you increased damage whenever you do charge attacks, and this is a charge attack build. I can't stress this enough. Again, if you don't have these 2 rings, it's not a big deal. All the footage that you've seen in this video so far has been without these 2 rings. Finally, onto the stats, and we have 50 in strength, well 48 in strength, because ideally in our shield we'll have things that scale it, but we don't have it equipped right now, obviously. But yeah, you'll have 50 in strength, 14 in agility, because I believe one of the things bring down your agility if you socket it into your shield, and you need 13 to meet the minimum requirement to be able to throw this banner to heal. So that's why we have that much in agility. 30 in endurance because we want extra weight, and stamina because I prefer to get 3 swings out, because 3 swings will actually just straight up kill most bosses, and you have just enough to do 3 with that much endurance. So that's the purpose of having that much. And then vitality, again, we still need a lot of weight because all of our stuff is very heavy, so we need vitality. And then just keep your Inferno in your Radiant space and you should be good to go. With that said, that is my Bullyking strength build. Let me know what you guys think about the build down in the comments. This build is a very fun build. I still think it's like arguably my strongest build I've made so far. I mean, the Paladin build is pretty insane too because it's just undying. But this one feels really good because you just can trade with any opponent that you face off against. And it just feels really good to bully the bosses, you know. With that said, that's going to be it for this video. Don't forget to like as well as subscribe for more Lords of the Fallen content. And I'll see you guys in the next video very soon. Later.